Hi, friends. I'm Congressman Bill Johnson from Ohio. I'm very honored to speak with you today and to offer this message commemorating the end of Sri Lanka's decades-long civil war 11 years ago on May 18, 2009. First, let me share with you a little about the work I'm doing in Congress to advocate for the human rights of ethnic and religious minorities, specifically in Sri Lanka. As some of you may know, I co-chair the Congressional Caucus on Ethnic and Religious Freedom in Sri Lanka, along with my colleague, Representative Danny Davis from Illinois. I'm honored to co-chair this caucus that we founded back in 2013. The mission of this caucus is to increase awareness about the importance of protecting human rights and the identity of all ethnicities and religions in Sri Lanka, especially those who are being excluded from society, the economy, and political life through discrimination, harassment, and persecution. The caucus has served as a platform to educate other members of Congress and staff on these critical issues. We've been fortunate to host several distinguished speakers at caucus briefings, scholars and advocates, including Callum McRae and law professor Dermot Groom, and even a member of Sri Lanka's parliament, M.A. Samanthiran, who spoke at a panel briefing in 2016, along with Sri Lanka's ambassador to the U.S. As co-chair of the caucus, I'm also engaged with the U.S. State Department and our ambassador to Sri Lanka, Elena Teplitz. Discussions with these officials provide me insight into U.S. policy and our national interest in Sri Lanka, and also allow me to advocate on issues raised by the caucus to ensure the U.S. continues to encourage the Sri Lankan government to uphold human rights and civil liberties for all its citizens. In May of 2017, I visited Sri Lanka on what was a very important and memorable trip. I met with several Sri Lankan government officials, in addition to several local officials and leaders in the Tamil community. As an Air Force veteran and a private pilot, I was even honored to co-pilot a portion of the flight from Colombo up to Jaffna. You know, one of the most memorable experiences I had while traveling up north was to visit one of Halo Trust's demining sites. What a humbling and heartbreaking experience that was. To see the slow and painstaking work of clearing landmines, work that is largely being done by war widows and survivors of the Civil War so that they can return to their homes, something they have been unable to do even after all these years past the conflict. This experience convinced me to become a co-chair of the UXO Demining Caucus with my colleague, Representative Jackie Speer, in January of 2019. While the end of the decades-long war, a conflict that is estimated to have left over 100,000 people dead, was certainly an important milestone, it has not ended the suffering of those whose loved ones are still unaccounted for families whose land is still occupied or covered with unexploded ordnance, for those whose civil rights or ethnic or religious freedoms are still not fully recognized by the Sri Lankan government. It is my sincere hope that one day Sri Lanka will be a unified country, led by a government committed to democratic principles, where all its citizens receive equal treatment under the law. In my view, this cannot happen until the Sri Lankan government upholds the commitments made in 2015 when they co-sponsored Resolution 30-1 at the UN Human Rights Council. By co-sponsoring this resolution, the Sirisena government committed to setting up a transitional justice process in Sri Lanka for war crimes and crimes against humanity that were allegedly committed both during and after the end of the Civil War. As we know, since signing the resolution, Sri Lanka has been very slow to implement a transitional justice process. And it is feared by many that the progress made by the Sirisena government is in jeopardy with the election of Gotabaya Rajapaksa last November and his appointment of Mahinda Rajapaksa to serve as president and prime minister respectively. Please be assured, I am committed to using our caucus to continue raising awareness of these issues through the caucus. and also to continuing a dialogue with the U.S. State Department, Ambassador Teplitz, to ensure the United States remains a leader in encouraging the Rajapaksa government to continue moving forward on implementing a transitional justice mechanism and reforming the government to uphold democratic principles, accountability, and transparency. Furthermore, the need for equal treatment and upholding of human and civil rights for all is particularly important given these uncertain times created by the global coronavirus pandemic. It is critically important that the Sri Lankan government acts carefully to provide aid and to enforce any restrictions on its citizens equally. Doing so would prevent further discrimination of ethnic and religious minorities and could be an opportunity to return trust. Additionally, I remain very concerned by China's influence in the region. It was the debt created under Mahinda Rajapaksa's presidency, coupled with his reliance on the Chinese for loans and assistance, that resulted in China's occupation of the Hanabantoda port. Sri Lanka is well positioned within the Asia-Pacific region, and the importance of the U.S. and Western allies preventing the spread of Chinese influence cannot be overstated. Thus, maintaining a strong economic partnership with Sri Lanka is of great U.S. national interest, particularly given the recent return to power of the Rajapaksa brothers. It is a delicate balance to pressure the Rajapaksa government to follow through on promises made for accountability and transparency without pushing them further into the open arms of the Chinese. So, as we remember those who were lost and commemorate the end of the Civil War, please know that you have a friend and an ally here in Congress. I will continue to advocate for the Sri Lankan government to make meaningful progress on all fronts to restore democratic principles for all Sri Lankans so that the country can move forward as a united, unified, prosperous nation. I hope everyone stays safe and healthy during these uncertain times. Take care, and God bless.